Changes. You know that song? Well, I was thinking about changes as I got into this car. This is the MG3, and it is the new offering from MG. So the compact city runabout hybrid sort of thing. And obviously it's made in China. It's completely new. A lot of tech in here. Like I said, hybrid, so there's obviously that tech, but then all the screen, 360-degree camera, small digital screen in front of me. You know, there's a lot going on here. And when you start to think about MG as a brand, and you think about MG, the name, then that's quite a lot to take in when you think about it, right? And then that's why, like, I was thinking about changing and how things change. And that's really what this video is about. Let's get into it.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
So, curious one, this. I think, you know, it's to do with how times change, how things evolve. But I was thinking about this MG and sort of, I suppose a lot of people's relationship with the MG, but also my own relationship with the MG. I mean, I guess that my relationship with MG probably doesn't go back as far as for a lot of people. They think about MGBs, MGB roadsters. Of course, you know, I do think of those cars. But I also remember the sort of first reincarnation, if you like, because obviously they tied up with Honda. Rover, which owned MG, they tied up with Honda. And then, so you have now, for example, now you have the MG ZS, but the MG ZS was actually, the original MG ZS was actually a small saloon, and which was based on a Rover 400, Rover 45, which itself was actually based on a Honda Civic, you know. So that was like the first time, you know, that there was, you know, I mean, that's not the sort of cars that you were expecting from the MG brand, I suppose, you know. But you got those, and you got the sporty versions. So it's a case of how these things evolve and how these things change. And, you know, it is very easy to want to just, you know, keep thinking back about how things were, and, you know, why have they changed, and why have we got something new and something different. And, you know, to a large extent, you know, I can completely relate to that. You know, I mean, I am, you know, myself stuck in the 80s. I drive an 80s BMW when I can, when ULEZ will allow me. Well, ULEZ never allows me. When my budget will allow me to pay for ULEZ is what I should say. And I love driving that car, and I think that's, you know, probably it's one of the most engaging things to drive compared to anything modern. So of course, you know, you look at the past with rose-tinted spectacles, and you go, well, you know, things were better, and, you know, how have they got any better? But they have. I mean, things have improved. I mean, look at this car. I mean, this is so serene, it's so quiet, it's so smooth. It's literally the first time I'm driving it, actually. I've got it on test for a few days, so stand by. MG3 review will come your way soon. But I've got it for a few days, but literally it's the first time I've really taken it out is now, and I'm still trying to figure out that, you know, all the buttons and the controls and everything that this car has got on it. But that's just the aspect of modern cars. But also the fact that they have the safety systems, the 360-degree camera, the alerts, the cross-traffic alerts, the steering correction systems. Some cars have monitors that monitor you to make sure that you're paying attention. I mean, these are things that, you know, these will blow our minds if we told us about them 30 years ago, that this is the sort of technology that we would have in the past. And talking about the MG brand, I'll tell you, I'm really gutted about something. Really gutted about something, actually, because there are, every now and then we get invited to car launches and stuff like that. There's one car that I've probably been looking forward to, and some of you might be disappointed to hear it's an EV, and I've been really desperately looking forward to driving this thing, because I think it's possibly the most exciting new EV that's come out for a long time and will come out for a while, in terms of not only what it is, but also in terms of, I dare say, affordability. No EVs, none of the modern EVs are affordable, but you know what I mean. It's like, it sort of seems vaguely within reach, you know. And that was the MG Cyberster, which is the sports car. It's a two-door convertible roadster sports car. I've seen it in the metal, or whatever you want to call it nowadays. I've sat in it, and it just was fantastic. It's got scissor doors. It looks fantastic. The interior is amazing, and it feels like it's going to be a really cool car. So I was really looking forward to driving that car, and I got an invite to the launch, and I was like, whoa, this is going to be awesome. And the launch is in Scotland, so you just know it's going to be absolutely epic with some sensational roads. But I'm really gutted because the day that launch actually is, I can't go because I'm booked on a conference. I've been pre-booked on the conference ages ago, and I can't, and I have to go to that. So that sucks. But this is the thing, I was actually getting really excited about driving this new thing, and I think this is really, it's important. I mean, you know, I suppose I'm going to contradict myself, because I say to a lot of people that driving the old BMW, the 89 BMW, is like the elixir of youth. For me personally, it's like a time warp. You know, you get into the car and it takes you back to the 80s, but also because I had one of those in the 90s. And in the 90s, I was in my late 20s, and I had that car. So I jump in that car, and the smells and the sounds and the whole sensation of driving the car, it immediately takes you back, and you feel like you're in your 20s again. So the elixir of youth. But then the other thing that is crucial about cars is about the excitement, is about the engagement, is about the fascination. And I suppose the thing for me has always been that, you know, cars, I do cars, I cover cars, I talk about cars, I write about cars, I make videos on cars, I do content on cars because I love cars. Because I've always loved cars. Now, admittedly, that's testing at times nowadays because of how similar cars are getting. But every now and then something comes along, like the MG Cyberster, which really gets your juices flowing, and you go, oh, that looks interesting, I want to give that a go. And in that sense, like I said, I'm going to contradict myself, something new or utterly brand new futuristic also can get your juices going, can give you the act as the elixir of youth, because all of a sudden you feel like that, you know, like that new journalist again, getting into this field, getting excited about driving a new car, and I think that is an important part of it, and it's an important part of what we do, it's an important part of what we feel, and it's an important part of how we stay young despite the changes that are constantly happening, that are constantly hitting us, that we constantly have to deal with and cope with. You know, the other thing is, of course, that I am a huge science fiction fan. I am a Trekkie, as you may have noticed from the badge, that I'm always wearing a Star Trek badge. So, you know, and that also excites me, because Star Trek was always about looking forward. It was even way back in the 60s. I mean, if you think about all the technology that they imagined in the 60s, a large portion of that technology is stuff that we now have, you know. Okay, we don't have transporters, sadly, but you know, we have communicators, we have iPads, which, if you remember, Kirk used to sign an iPad back in the day, you know, and replicators are basically 3D printers and stuff like that. And you know, even NASA is talking about the potential of having warp drives. So there is such a concept as having warp drives. Antimatter is a thing. So anyway, the point is that it was all exciting stuff, because a lot of it was ensconced in psychobabble, but science babble, I should say, but actually real science babble. So, and I think this is where, you know, it gets really exciting for me. And it's one of the things that I would say, you know, is, again, going back to that concept of the elixir of youth, is that it keeps you young, because you're engaged, you're excited, you're keen to know what's coming next. And I think the same is true for cars. And, you know, the problem that I have with a lot of people, they're like, oh, MG is not what it used to be, oh, it's all made in China. I mean, yes, it is. I mean, you know, yes, unfortunately, it is made in China. A lot of stuff is made in China now, quite frankly, a lot. I mean, you know, the phone you're probably watching this on, or the TV you're probably watching this on, has probably also been made in China. That's a whole different discussion. That's a whole different argument about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, and how far we should be going down that road. We won't get into that now, maybe save that for another video. But the point is that progress in itself, forget about where things are made, but the progress in terms of technology and the evolution and the changes are all part of the progress of humanity. And it's not a case of, you know, we always need to respect and appreciate and hark back to the past, and also the past then actually teaches us about the mistakes that we made and what mistakes we shouldn't be making going forward. But at the same time, we don't have to always live in the past. We can certainly, like I said, every time I can jump in my old BMW, I visit the past, but I don't have to live there, you know. And I always embrace the new stuff, you know. And I think this is one of the things that even in my field of media has set me apart from some of my colleagues and my contemporaries, is that I've always wanted to embrace the new thing and see what it is. You know, I started out, you know, when newspapers, you were still doing paste up, so we didn't even have desktop publishing back then. It was actual paste up onto a board, and then that would be cut, you know. And now we're in an era where, you know, I wrote a book, and I didn't even have to get it printed. I just sent the book to Amazon, and Amazon does print on demand. So when you buy my book, and you should buy my book, don't forget the ULEZ Files by BC Guy, Brown Car Guy, on Amazon. When you order a hard copy, you can also obviously order it on an e-reader, so you can get an e-copy. But if you order a hard copy, they print it then and there, and they send it to you. So, which is extraordinary, you know. But all of these things, you know, the technology that's available, when Photoshop came along, when Word was improved. When I started out, I was typewriting on an old typewriter, and I moved to an electric. I had a Casio electric typewriter. I was like, oh my God, this is the height of technology. And then of course computers and then internet. And even now, like, I think when I started my career, there was no internet, and I think, like, how did I do all those articles and all the research without internet? You know, I'm guessing it involved books and magazines and going to libraries and making phone calls and that sort of stuff, you know. And I guess that's what we had to do, you know. Not every new thing is good, obviously. That's not what I'm saying. And there's a lot that we should go, oh. And again, that what I said earlier about looking back to the past and using that as a kind of barometer that kind of teaches us about the mistakes that we could make or will make, and where we can try and avoid that into the future. And I think that's important. And not everything new is good, but not everything new is bad. I mean, just again, going back to this car, I mean, you know, my old BMW feels a more substantial, solid car, but I bet you, in reality, I would be far safer having a crash. I don't want to have a crash, and God forbid I have a crash, but I would be far safer having a crash in this car because of all the structure and the safety features and all the crash safety cells and all the rest of it than you would ever be in a 60s, 70s, 80s car. I think that's actually a given, you know. So when they say, you know, they don't make them like they used to, and you go, well, actually, thank God for the vast majority of people that because they don't make them like they used to, probably saved a lot of people's lives. A lot of people say to me is that, yeah, but you crash an old car, you can pull it back into shape again. You crash a new car, and basically it's almost a write-off sometimes. Why is it, you know, why is it suffered so badly? And I always try to explain to people, I say, well, that is the function of the crash safety structure. That's actually designed to do that. So in an old car, what used to happen is the structure of the car was solid, but the energy of the impact, it would pass back to the soft things inside the car, i.e. us, because it wouldn't be able to absorb that energy. So modern cars are designed in the way that they absorb all the energy by basically self-destructing. They absorb the energy by dissipating, by, you know, disintegrating. So, and that's why they lessen the energy that actually then hits the soft things inside of them. So actually, you know, I always have to explain to people that that's actually a good thing. Hey, are you liking this video? Then make sure that you hit the like button. That's really important. Also, tell everybody. And even back in the day, you know, I mean, do you remember the adverts from Audi? Ursprung durch Technik, advantage through technology. And we all used to get really excited about that back in the day. So we can't actually be hypocrites, can we? When we were younger, we were really excited about new stuff and new tech. The fact that Audi came along and revolutionized performance vehicles with on-road four-wheel drive. Because remember, like, that wasn't really a thing. You know, you had Land Rovers and you had off-roaders. They had four-wheel drive. Cars, passenger cars, on-road cars, didn't really, until the likes of Audi came along and said, no, actually, the car is grippier, safer, and faster around corners when you give it four-wheel drive. And you went, oh, okay, that's a thing. That's a very good thing. So you see what I'm saying? So it's always been the case. I mean, phones, we didn't have mobile phones, and when they came along, they were bricks. And now they're not even phones anymore. They're personal computers. And, you know, I've just been listening to the news about the next generation of iPhone, and the fact that Apple has just tied up with ChatGPT, so OpenAI actually, to basically make that part of its OS operating system. So you think about the fact, and this is the other thing, is like the way that things are going to revolutionize completely. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I don't think anybody has any comprehension of just how much of an impact. I mean, it's since the internet, Nothing will have the impact that AI is about to have on our lives and on our worlds. I mean, I honestly can't genuinely overstate that. I think it's going to completely and utterly change everything. It already is changing everything, but the consequences are going to be far further and far more reaching. Now, that could be a bad thing. And in many ways, I think it will, for many people, in many ways, and even people like me, it will be a bad thing. It's funny, I saw a meme the other day, and it was quite right. It was like, you know, I wanted robots to be able to do the washing up and the ironing so that I could spend time doing creative stuff like writing and making art. I didn't want the robots to be doing the writing and making the art so I can have more time to do the washing up and the ironing. It's gone the wrong way around, that. And this is the thing, because we always thought that robots, computers would be too logical to be able to do, would not have the emotional understanding to be able, emotional sensitivity, emotional intelligence to be able to do things like, you know, literature and art, but they've already proved us wrong. So imagine where it goes from here. You know, autonomous cars, robots doing everything, robots in our homes very soon, inevitable, let's be honest. Robot doctors, don't we want them? So, you know, I mean, it's fundamentally going to change everything. So the technology is happening, it is changing, everything is going to change, but the reality is that you have to stay with it. You have to stay with it, you know. I mean, it's the only way, it's the only option that we have. We have no other choice, because if you don't stay with it, what happens? You stagnate, you get left behind, you know. And if that's okay for you, you know, if you've done everything you want to do in life, and you know it's time to just kick back and relax and not worry about everything, then maybe that's fine, you know, that's the way to do it. But if you're still an active proponent of society, if you're still contributing, if you're still doing something, I mean, for me, it's like, I think I'm going to work till I drop dead one day. I don't ever want to be not useful. You know, there's a line in one of the Star Trek movies where Spock says, you know, have we outlived our usefulness? And, you know, I mean, I think that it was an introspective question. And I think that, you know, this is the thing, is like, you know, I don't want to be asking that question. I don't want to be asking that question. I don't want to be in that situation. So therefore, then you have to keep embracing the new and understanding the new and coping with the new to be able to continue to be useful and to be active and to provide usefulness in the world. And I think that, you know, as long as we're around, we should try and do that. If you're in the fortunate position that, you know, you don't need to and you don't wish to, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. This is the great thing about the modern world, where we all have choices, right? But that would be me. This is what I'm trying to say, I guess. I am, you know, probably in the last third of my life, I suppose, you know, if I'm being completely honest, you know. And as we age, of course, it does get more difficult, and you know, it becomes harder to cope with why are things different, why can't they stay the same, why is this new, why, you know, even the stuff that I'm complaining and moaning about in other videos where I talk about, you know, emissions and low emission zones and all of this sort of stuff, and you know, all of that is very valid, you know. And the reality is that, you know, maybe I am on the wrong side of history, you know. Of course, I have the right to challenge it, but it could be that I'm on the wrong side of history. It could be that, you know, this is the way to go and this is how it's going to go, and there's no two ways about it. That is just, you know, what you've got to think about. So in that case, you know, you find that actually you need to be open-minded. You need to be aware of these sort of things, and just stay up to date with them, because sometimes, you know, you need to question, of course. What I was trying to say is that you need to question these things as well. I think that's also important, because not everything is 100% right, not everything is as it should be, but changes is something that you have to look at and scrutinize, and in many cases it's for the better. In some cases it may not be logical, it may not make sense, and it is our right to speak out when we think that's the case, you know, which is, you know, I suppose what I was doing with you, Les. But the reality is that, you know, there are going to be changes, and we have to cope with it. I mean, MG is transforming because it has to transform. You know, I mean, okay, the Cyberster is a roadster, so it's coming out, going back to sort of its roots with that car, with that product. But it can't keep doing that. There's a Volvo in front of me, a 240L Volvo, a classic tank of a thing. Still an awesome, great, robust car. But they couldn't sell that today. That's a big, heavy lump of a car to drive, you know. So they had to evolve, and now they're just doing electric stuff. You know, embracing the new is not about just keeping up. It's about thriving in a world that never stops moving. The world never stops moving. You know, the future never stops coming towards us. You know, I mean, it's like being in a car. As we're driving, that's the past, that's the future. It keeps coming at you. It keeps coming at you. And you can equate it to driving. It's like, you know, you have to be aware, you have to keep an eye out, you have to see what's going on, you have to stick with it, you have to be alert. You know, you have to look ahead. Yes, you look in the past, you look in the past as well. So you do that, but you look ahead. And you try and stay alert, and you keen-eyed, you know, because all the obstacles and everything is going to come in front of you, and your experience and everything teaches you. So when you're driving along and you're reading the road, you're reading the behavior of other drivers, that's your experience and your skill telling you where there might be an obstacle or a danger, or somebody's about to do something crazy. So that's the past, but you still have to keep going forward. You have to. So, and by going forward, you have to adapt to new driving styles and new technology and all the rest of it. So all of this is absolutely crucial. So I suppose what I'm saying is that the choice is not about change, because change is inevitable, because it's coming at us all the time, it's happening all the time. Change is inevitable. The choice is not about change, but it's about how we navigate the change, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And again, in the context of cars, it is very easy, and I do the same. I mean, I love classics, and I find that as I'm aging, I'm more and more loving classics, you know. So especially those classics that in my lifetime or just beyond, you know, 60s onwards sort of thing, I'm really sort of more and more relating to them. And obviously there's a hint of nostalgia, there's a hint of reminiscing, there's a hint of sentimentality there, but at the same time, you know, of course, it's important to respect and honor those cars and to drive them whenever you can. But at the same time, you know, you got to look forward and you got to think, well, how do I deal with this? How do I cope with this? You know, and that's the reality of it. So, like I said, it's not the choice is not change, because change is happening. The choice is how we navigate change. And I think that, you know, the best thing to do is to embrace it and be smart about it. But at the same time, you know, look at it with a circumspect view as well. You know, look at it with a critical view as well, and go, you know, because I think that is also very important in what we are and what we do and how we do it. So anyway, bit of a rambling discussion there about change, because I just started thinking about MG and how the brand is evolving, and for what it was and what it is, you know, undergone the different ownerships. And that could be said about a lot of car brands, but it's just something that I was bouncing around in my head, and I hope you understood some of it. I hope some of it made sense to you, and I hope that, you know, this bizarre conversation was perhaps in some way useful. Catch you on the next one. Check this out, guys. It's my book. It's my first novel, and it's written for car fans like you. It's a fun political action thriller. It's full of cool cars and spectacular action. Get your copy now at Amazon.com. Shout out time, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, if you enjoy my content, why not get involved? Buy me a coffee. You can do that at either of these links, or if you're watching on YouTube, buy me a thanks or take out a membership. It all helps. It really does.